The NFL draft starts today, and we're here with day one of our two-day HBCU draft ultimate preview. Oh, yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me, making Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. It just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com/locked on to make every moment more. And new customers get $150 back guaranteed, win or lose, off your first bet. It's our HBCU draft preview. I've been beating the table. I've been waiting. I've been extremely excited for this one. We have Gerald Huggins on the show to break down how many draftees will we have. And then we have 4 players who I want to break down what is the likelihood that they get drafted. I couldn't do an ultimate HBCU draft preview without getting my guy Gerald Huggins, who has changed his Twitter to Coach_Huggins II. Right. So just in case you guys want to follow him, I seen that when I felt like something was different. So I went to go ahead and make sure I got the Twitter right and changed the II, man. So I reached out to you, I think this was about a week ago, and we spoke about how the coverage has been slight. And I think one of the reasons that's the case is the draft class just has not excited a lot of people. So I'll open up real broad before we get specific to each player. How many HBCU players are getting drafted in 2024?
2, no more than 3, realistically. I think a lot of the FCS guys in general are just not, or like non-FBS guys are just not getting talked about as much. I mean, I know there's like few that are getting some praise, like Karan from Yale or Mason from South Dakota State. Mikey's picking up some steam and stuff like that. But for the most part, they're not really talking about the smaller school guys. But, that's okay. End of the day, most of those guys did exactly what they're supposed to do during the postseason process with their bowl games and their testing and stuff like that. So they're going to be – it doesn't seem like it's going to be a lot overall from the small schools. But, I mean, for me, I have about 15 FCS prospects alone that I believe should be drafted just based on their tape. But HBCU wise, I mean, it's really, I feel I'm most confident that Sonny and Mikey will be the ones to get drafted. Anim is on the fringe. Those are my 3.
It sounds like, and just so y'all know, so when Gerald and I come on here and we do these shows, I think at one point we used to do kind of a preview, but we do no prep. This is what we're talking about. Let me not say we don't do any prep. We do our individual preps separately, right? Mm-hmm. So we don't check to see if we're in alignment. But over the course of these next 2 episodes, you had Victor, Sundiata, and Anim as your 3 favorites. And I'll say, as we play this game of what's the chances for each guy, those are the 3 that I have in that order. Victor is my number 1, and then I have Dankwah and Anderson right there. So it is funny that you say that. I have a pool of about 5 players that I think that 2 to 3 is going to come from. And it's not even that I think all 5 are going to get drafted. I clearly don't. But it's a selection of 5 players, and we'll narrow it down. But The next question I flip over to you is, when is the earliest name going to be called? Because we seen, I think it was Durant in 2022. I think he was the first one, either him or Williams.
It was Williams in the 4th round.
Okay, and then did Durant go at the top of the 5th? I know they were close.
I believe Durant was the 4th or the 5th, but I know for sure Josh was the 4th round guy.
And then last year you saw Bolden in the 7th, and now this year we see, I don't know who, you can put a name on it if you want to, but just when is that first player getting drafted?
Day 3 around, let's go around realistically round 5. Do I think it's really, like I said on another show, it's not always just about the talent. It's about what they need at the moment, what the team needs. So if they don't feel like they need you in that spot to fill their roster, you're not going to get that. I mean, you're not graded a certain way. Mikey Victor is graded for me as of between the 4th, 5th, 6th round-ish. Sonny is the same, 5th, 6th round-ish. Anim is more 6th to PFA. You know what I mean? So the biggest thing I just want people to realize is like, hey, sometimes the team and that's picking in that round or picking in that moment, they just don't need one of our guys for that spot. It's really just big. It's more about need than ability. So that's what it really boils down to. So I'll just say I start my day really. This year I can keep an eye out with Shrine Bowl. I think we have some kids that may be able to sneak into the first. But for sure, we have some 2nd round picks for Shrine. And I know day 3 is my day. That's where day 2, day 3, but it's really day 3. That's where, like, okay, for the people that are watching, everybody, not just the obvious guys, to watch, they're looking for the Jaden Sherdans, the Mason McCormicks, the Christian Boyds. Those are like, day 3 is like my Super Bowl. Because I'm just waiting to see all these FCS guys, these D2 guys just drive. I did the Sun Belt for the Shrine Bowl. So, like, okay, I want to see my Sun Belt guys, get a shot. Frank Gore, Kamani Vidal, who I love. So you just look at guys like that, and for real, like, this is honestly, for me as a scout, this is like my favorite draft coming up because, like, I learned a lot more this year, and I'm really working on seeing how the process goes, and now realizing how the process is and how teams think. I feel more confident in saying that, hey, we're going to have 2 guys. Before, it was more like a hope and a prayer, like, oh, man, I hope we get 2. And I was like, no. Based on the process, based on the measurables, based on the tape, these guys deserve to be here. But, having a draftable grade doesn't mean you get drafted, but that doesn't mean you're not a good player.
You said something interesting. Because I know you were at the Shrine Bowl, right? And you were able to talk to a lot more scouts. You were able to get a lot of that context that you said has kind of shifted your thought process. What are the check boxes now that you feel like HBCU players have to check in order to get drafted?
Height, weight, speed is a good one. You can't go wrong because at the end of the day, like I do the ACC now for Shrine Bowl. And the guys, majority of the guys check the height, weight, speed box, and that gets you in the door. Like, hey, like the Mikey. So with Mikey, it's like, hey, I have a 6'3" corner here that has versatility to play in the slot or the outside, ex-basketball player, ex-receiver, solid hands. That's marketable. Like, you can promote that. It's hard to promote a 5'8" guy that's not a plus athlete, that may be like a C athlete that doesn't have the length and doesn't have the versatility that a taller guy would. Trust me, if there's a 5'10" guy and a 6'4" guy and they both do the same thing, they're going with the 6'4" guy.
Yes, 1,000%. Every single time.
Every time. So it's not about emotion anymore with this. It's literally just a lot. The game is getting the game's getting taller, but as you can see, they want taller people in certain positions more than they did before. Not saying that a 5'10", because I love Jari Alexander. He's 5'10" and change. Love him. He's one of my favorite corners. But the best corners, the best DBs in NFL are tall, 6 foot and up. Even say what you want about Bland from the Cowboys. He had a lot of interceptions. He had an up and down year, but he's 6 foot plus. Pat Surtain, all pro, first team, 6 foot plus. Who was it? Oh my God, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. The Ravens safety.
The safety?
Yeah, from the Ravens. He went to Notre Dame. Kyle Hamilton.
Him. Okay. I thought you were talking about Geno Stone for a second, who had all the interceptions.
No. Kyle Hamilton. So it's like if you're a small school guy, you have to pass the eye test first. So Mason McCormick, 6'4", 300 plus, just looks like an offense. He just looks like an offensive lineman. Then you have Karan from Yale, like 6'5", 326 pounds, built like a power forward. Yeah, of course. Christian Boyd, 6'1", 312 or something, between 312 and 320. Stout, big lower half, well developed, strong, like just a compactly built, like good weight distribution kind of guy. Like when you look at those guys, like I'm not strong, but I'm looking at our guys, and I'm looking at the guys there. Okay, they fit right in. Sonny didn't look out of place. Mikey didn't look out of place. Donk was the biggest person there. So they don't look out of place. There are other guys to a small level that you have to be like, okay, let me look at him. But then other guys just call it what it is. They like, yeah, I could work with that because he's big. You know, you just say, hey, like Jalix Hunt from Houston Christian. He's big. He's played safety. He's like 6'4", 250, like 80-some inch wingspan. He's raw, but what would you rather go with a 6'4" guy that's raw, or go for the undersized guy that's a raw athlete?
That's it. That right there is the thing that I feel like so many people don't get. And when you take the emotion out, it's there. It's just you have to understand what they value, and we'll see if certain players check those boxes, because we're going to kick it off with Davius Richard, who I think is the biggest name in this draft class. But I don't have the confidence. I don't have the optimism that he gets drafted. I would love to see what you think as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. And Monopoly Go is the classic Monopoly game, but with a mobile twist. And I'll tell you this, I've tried to deny it for a long time, but I am a competitive person. And there's not many things these days that scratches my competitive itch. But Monopoly Go is one of the few things that does it. So I really do appreciate it. And if you're anything like me, Monopoly Go can do that for you as well, because we've all played Monopoly. You know what? I hate landing on people's property. I do. And I got to keep paying. It just feels like once you land on one, you land on two, you land on 27. But like, you can't get your money back most times unless you have your own property. But here's the thing with Monopoly Go. You can point out who's the leaderboard or who's at the top of the leaderboard and go rob their vault. You might be down now, but it won't be for long. And you know what? Maybe you're not competitive. Maybe you don't want to fight it out. Maybe you just want to have fun with your friends. That's cool too. Go ahead and download the Monopoly Go app on the App Store or Google Play to scratch your competitive side, or maybe your kumbaya camaraderie side. Today's episode is also brought to you by Gametime. I love Gametime for a couple of reasons. Number one, extremely versatile. Anything that I could possibly want on Gametime, I can find on Gametime. It's not just athletic events. I know that this is about HBCU athletics, but you also have to look at comedy shows, theater plays. You have the variety of sporting events that you can go to, but it's not just that, right? So I love it because I can find everything. Concerts, that's the other one that I was looking for, but I couldn't find. They prioritize last-minute deals, help you save up to 60% off by buying last-minute deals for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. And my favorite part about it all is the flash deals, which allows you to save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. So go ahead and download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE to get $20 off your first purchase. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked on HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day for your second listen. If you're listening early enough and you haven't made it to the NFL draft yet, then go ahead and check out the Locked On NFL mock draft to see what our experts say with picks 1 through 32 before you get the real thing tonight. I think it's like 7 or whatever Central Time it is, what you know where y'all at. But just check out the draft. Now I got Gerald here. We're looking at some guys. We're not looking at day one. We're probably not looking at day two either. But Davius Richard is a very interesting prospect.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to play this game, everybody.
Oh.
How likely is it that this person gets drafted? I'm doing mine on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being a lock, 4 being that I have a little bit of confidence. 2 and 3 are pretty much both. It wouldn't surprise me, but the difference is my optimism level. And then 1 is this will be a surprise, right? But I'm going to start off with Davius Richard. I gave him a 2. And the injury for me is just too much to overlook. I would love to draft him. I think he's a good prospect. I think that he had a decent chance. And if he hadn't gotten hurt, I probably would have put him at a 3. But because of his injury and the timeline of it, I know people like him. I know that people have talked about him in a certain way, both on the national media and kind of our HBCU level.
Yeah.
But I just think that his not being available until August is going to derail his draft stock overall.
Well, I'm gonna go 1. He's a PFA for me. Preferred free agent. There are people still reaching out to him. There are some teams that are higher on him still to bring him in and just mold him into whatever they want him to be. Worst case, man, the kid comes in, he does what he's supposed to do. He's a solid scout team quarterback in the NFL. Practice team quarterback in the NFL. Give him multiple looks, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to make that clear. Davius Richard getting a PFA after what happened, his process is fine. The goal for most of our guys is to just get into camp. Get into camp, and once you get into camp, I don't want to hear the politics stuff, even though I know it's there. But if you that good, trust me, it's a business. If you're that good, if you just make their life hard, you make those meetings tougher. Like when in recruiting meetings, scouting meetings, we go at it over players because we just like, we can't let this kid walk. He's literally just did everything right. He's busting his tail. I don't care where he's from. But, that's why I always I know a lot of kids complain about not having opportunities, but if you got into camp, you got to make it happen. You got into camp. You're going against NFL players. So just stand out or go home.
Did the injury affect anything for your thought process on whether he gets drafted? He's a 1 no matter what.
Yeah, he was a PFA the whole time for me. It's just, and it's not a knock on him. It's just he was just a PFA. He's a guy with upside, but he still has some cleaning up to do. So there's nothing wrong with him being a PFA and learning on a certain team. I hope he goes to a team that has a quarterback that he can learn from. So it would be best, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, and listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, I think that we have the same top 3, but I think overall my numbers will end up being higher than yours. You've had a lot more inside information that you've been able to get as far as talking to scouts, knowing what they look at. I'm just going based off a little bit more film. So I think that my numbers will be a little bit more optimistic than yours will. But let's see. I'll let you go first on Anim.
Anim, I would say he had a good pro day. He was invited to some local pro days as well with teams. Solid Shrine Bowl. He knows what he has to work on. But teams are interested. I don't know if it means much that he's like one of the few HBCU players in the mock draft thing on PFF. I don't know if that means anything, but he's there. So clearly his name is out there. He was at the NFL Combine. He did look good in drills. He's losing the weight. He's going to continue to lose the weight. He's really motivated. He's probably even more motivated than ever before. He lost his mom. Rest in peace to his mom. So all that to say, I'm gonna give him a 3. 3 is probably where I'm gonna lean with it because he's a player that wants to be better. He has no choice if he wants to be in this league. And I just think the way that teams need offensive linemen and how a team would love to have a bigger guy that they can mold instead of having a guy they're going to have to try their best to build up. But we'll build up from a height, weight, speed kind of aspect. I think him running a 5'2" or 5'3" 40 was pretty good for his size, 350 pounds. So I'm going to give him a 3. And I think 3 would probably be 3 really means for me you're like seventh round PFA border, kind of like 6th to 7th round PFA border for him.
Okay, I got him a 3. I got a little bit of confidence, and for me, it's a little bit of stepping on faith because of his size, right? Like at the combine, he was 6'8", 353. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he might have slimmed down even more by the time his pro day came around.
349.
So he got under 350, and you said he's still working on it. So if you're looking at a player who I think he needed to get his weight down, there's just very few offensive tackles who are his weight or the 350 and up. I think it's 3 or something. It's very minor. Can count on one hand how many offensive tackles are 350 pounds. I have him as a 3 on mine because I have a little bit more optimism that his dimensions, being 6'8", being 345, let's just say 345-ish around now, I think that somebody will want to take a chance on him. I think that somebody will look at Anim Dankwah and say, he won't get past us. I know he's developmental. I know he has to work on stuff. I get it. But I think somebody's going to say, we won't let him get to undrafted to where he can choose where he wants to go. We're going to make sure that we get him. And it'll be a late round flyer. But I think that when you're his size and you do well at the Shrine Bowl, somebody's going to want you. And I think somebody's going to say that they don't want to let him pass. So I'm going with a 3 for Anim Dankwah. There's a couple of more players. I think we'll get to Sundata Anderson for sure. And maybe one more depending on how we go with Sundiata, because I know that we both like Sundiata so much so that we're actually going to open up next show speaking about Sundiata, the player, and not just his chances of getting drafted. So let's continue that as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and FanDuel is the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network. I told you it's day 1 of the NFL draft, which means you're almost running out of time on some of the earliest NFL draft odds. Do you think you know who's going to be the number 4 pick? That's where I think things get really interesting. If you have an idea of who's going to be the number 4 pick, whether that's Arizona, maybe that's Minnesota, maybe that's Las Vegas, there's a lot of people it could be. It's a lot of people that it could be. All you have to do is go ahead and put your money down. Matter of fact, win or lose, it doesn't matter. You get $150 back in bonus bets if you are new to FanDuel. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon. New customers get $150 back in bonus bets. So go ahead and go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. I got Gerald Huggins here with me. We're breaking down our HBCU prospects. I can't get all the big dogs out today. So I'm going to save 2 in the defensive backfield that a lot of people have been discussing for tomorrow's episode. But right now, let's unpack Sundata Anderson. And I'll go first as far as what are the chances that Sundiata gets drafted? I have a 3 for him. So both Dankwah and Anderson are at a 3 for me, which is, once again, I think they have a really good chance of getting drafted, and I have a little bit of optimism that it actually happens. For me, everything about Anderson comes down to his performance at the Shrine Bowl. When he was at the Shrine Bowl, you spoke to a different set of people. Like, you had the Shrine Bowl scouts that actually work for the Shrine Bowl. I was on the sideline, and the only person I could talk to was some of the NFL scouts from teams and try to hear what they saying and whatnot, but I was really just ear hustling. I was ear hustling the whole time. I ain't gonna lie to you. So when I hear them speak about Sundiata, when I see them react about Sundiata, I have a little bit of confidence that reaction, that tone that they speak with is going to extend into April, where we are now. It's going to extend into the draft. His talent was there. He showed up on the big stage. If there was somebody, or if I could just write on paper how I want a player to perform from a small school in a pre-draft bowl, I would probably write it up to perform like Sundiata Anderson. And I think that's probably one of the biggest compliments that I can give him. You got to speak to more people. I got to speak to you. So I got a little residual information, but I'll keep it at he's a 3 for me and push it over to you to see how you feel about Sundiata's draft stock.
I got a 4. I have a 4.
Okay.
because I have him as a 5th, 6th round pick, just based off his tape. Nice. I mean, he's about 6'4", 250 pounds, so the size not an issue. Motor there. Stout against the run, considering even with I think he just became 250 plus. So imagine when he gets an NFL diet in him, an NFL routine. That kid's gonna be 260 pounds, walking around there on a daily basis. So I mean, I know he's still working on the upper body strength, but he has ability to lock out. He's explosive off the ball. He throws all his weight into you. You have to beat him into submission or he won't stop. He has a good array of moves. I mean, he still has to be a little more polished as a pass rush, but he at least has 3 moves that I know he could confidently go to at any given time. He has speed to power, solid anchor against the run. He was a 3-3-5 defensive end, which means sometimes you're lined up in a 4-eye, which means you're almost a bona fide defensive tackle. And he was able to do that too. In the SWAC, say what you want about the SWAC. NFL teams come to the SWAC for offensive linemen. So clearly there's something there. And he dominated them. He's been dominant for 3 years. He did everything he's supposed to do. The only knock on him was the LSU game. And then you gotta I let it go. Me and him had that conversation. Nothing else to talk about. It's done. So he got to the Shrine Bowl. I said, yo, just do your thing. Like, don't think about it. And he did his thing. Everybody has mixed reviews on him, but they had him play that Sam backer as well. So he was dropping back in coverage. He showed he could catch. He showed he's somewhat fluid, moving backwards.
Yeah, especially for somebody who just started.
Yeah. So I mean, what else are you asking for? You have a guy with the ideal size, the motor, the hustle, the hard work, all that. Everything. He literally checking every box. I think he ran a little slow at his pro day. I think he ran like a high 4.7, 4.8-ish, but the tape show he's not slow. I've seen him catch running backs 30, 40 yards down the field. It's just what he does. He'll be on special teams. He's not gonna get in trouble. Why not draft a guy like that? So I'm pounding the table. I'm always gonna pound the table for a guy like Sonny. Get him into a situation. And I've been watching him for so long. It's like, dang, like, okay, we're here now. So I've seen the progression. I know what's ingrained in him. I know he wants to be great. There were times we had to light that fire again. He started like going, but it's okay. We go through ups and downs. He lit that fire again, and he showcased his ability. I mean, he jumped 38 inches. I don't know if people care about that. That's pretty good. I mean, it shows explosiveness. I mean, I'm big on the tape. Shows me everything I need to know about Sonny. But seeing him go against the Power 5 guys, Power 4 now, but Power 4 guys just showed me like the first day of practice at Shrine Bowl, they did best on best. Yeah, it was Sonny picked to go out there against a guy from West Virginia. He bulls a guy in. He bulls a guy and wins the rep. Everybody loved him. Scouts have told me they like him. There are other people that told me they like him. Everybody knows who he is. So, for me, it's very simple. I mean, you can't name that many players better. You can't name 250 plus players better than Sundiata Anderson in this draft. So that's why I feel like, yeah, he may not be a 4th, 5th round guy, 6th round guy like I might have him graded as, but this shouldn't be what, Saturday around like what? Probably like 8:00. He should be on somebody's team as a draft pick. But you just know, you know what I mean?
So we're not done with Sundiata. We're done for today. But tomorrow we're back. It's just basically, this is what I call the HBCU Ultimate Draft Preview, because we're breaking down all of the biggest names. And then we're also breaking down their chances individually with also some more large form topics. And we're going to expand on Sundiata in his game. We talked about his draft stock, but I have a couple of questions about things within his game. That'll be on tomorrow's episode. So I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. We'll be back tomorrow with part 2 of our draft preview. Gerald Huggins will still be here. Do not judge us. We're about to record it right now. We have washer and dryers, but we're just recording it. So we're not wearing the same clothes when you see us tomorrow. But until then, take care. Stay blessed. Peace.